Hey guys, we are going to start Bible. So I wanted to start with our Bible verse from last week. And our Bible verse from last week was Romans 5:8. So I want you guys to say it with me because I'm sure that you remember it. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8. Let's say it one more time. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So that's what our Bible verse was last week. And had we been at school, we would have talked about how Christ died. And Christ died, we know. How did he die? On the cross. That's exactly right. And so he dies on the cross, and we've all heard that story before. And so we know that story, and we've talked about all year, like why that had to happen and why Jesus had to die on the cross. And so this week, we're actually going to talk about what happens after he dies on the cross. What happens next? Have you ever watched a movie that you thought, and you got to the end and you thought, I don't want the movie to end right there. That's a terrible ending. Why is it going to end right there? But then maybe like after the credits, an end of the movie comes on and it's like the real ending. Well, that's kind of what we're going to talk about this week. How the story of Jesus doesn't end with him dying on the cross. The story, it doesn't stop there. It goes that he didn't just die. The greatest thing he did wasn't die, but was that he was resurrected. And so when we talk about resurrection, we're talking about someone going from dead to alive again. And that's what happens in our story. And so this week, our story takes place all throughout the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so they all tell basically the same story. In Matthew, it might be a little bit different than it is in Luke, some parts of it, but for the most part, they all tell the same story. And so I'm just going to kind of give you a kind of a summary of all of those in one. So Jesus has died on the cross. They've taken his body. He's dead. They've taken his body to a tomb, which is kind of like a big, I don't know, I picture kind of like a cave or something like that, but it's inside of a rock, and that's where they put his body, and they roll a big stone in front of it, and that stone seals it where no one can get in, no one can steal the body, no one can take the body, no one can go in there, like it's done. Okay, well, so that's where we're going to pick up. Just after sunrise on the first day of the week, some women who loved Jesus came to the garden and approached the tomb where his body had been laid. They brought perfumes and spices to put on the body of Jesus. They wondered how they would move the stone. But when they arrived, they were surprised to see that the huge stone had already been moved away. They looked into the tomb, and guess what? It was empty. The women were afraid. Mary Magdalene ran to find Simon Peter and John as the other women just stood there perplexed. They just could not figure out what happened to his body. They came, they were going to anoint his body and put all these oils and spices on it, just as kind of like a ritual that they did. And they came to do that. And when they got there, the stone was rolled away, and when they looked inside, it was empty. Well, Luke writes that two men in shining garments stood in front of the women. They were angels who said, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here. He is risen." Then the angels asked the women if they remembered what Jesus had said to them. Because when Jesus was alive, he told them, look, guys, this is what's going to happen. And Jesus told them, and they remembered as the angels reminded them of what he said. Jesus said when he was alive, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men to be crucified, and then rise again on the third day. The women remembered that Jesus had said that. Then Mary Magdalene went and told Simon, Peter, and John about the empty tomb. Remember, she ran to go tell them what happened. Well, Peter and John took off and they ran to the garden. Well, John got there first, but he stopped. But Peter ran right in. And when he goes in there, he sees that the linen cloth that had covered Jesus's face was folded, and it was sitting right by the grave clothes. And when Peter and John saw these things, they were sure that what Jesus had told them was true, that he had risen from the dead. Peter and John left. They went off. They went back. They went to go tell the rest of the disciples and the followers, like, it's true. What happened? It's true. But Mary Magdalene stayed, and she stood outside of the tomb weeping. She just didn't understand, like, where was he? And so she was so sad. She bent over to look into the tomb once more, and she saw 2 angels inside. They asked her why she was weeping, and she said to them, because they have taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have laid him. So she was very, very, very sad. She turned around and saw someone, but she didn't know that it was really Jesus. She actually thought it was the gardener. And that man, who is Jesus, asked her, he said, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? He knew who she was looking for, and he knew why she was crying. And Mary asked the man, she said, I just want to know where Jesus's body is. And Jesus called her by name. He called her by name. That's my favorite part of the whole story. Jesus sees this woman crying, and she doesn't understand what's happened. And all she wants is to take care and to show her love for Jesus. And he's not there. But Jesus calls Mary's name, and he says, Mary. He says, Mary. And when he called her name, she recognized him. She knew who he was. And that happens in our life. When Jesus calls our name and we know him, we know his voice. The Bible says that the sheep know the voice of the shepherd. They know when he calls us. And that's the same thing that happened to Mary. And also one cool thing is that Jesus shows up when Mary is so sad and so hurt and so confused and so scared. And Jesus shows up for us when we're sad and we're confused and we're hurt and we're upset. He showed up for her and he called her name. He said, Mary. And she knew who he was at that point. She knew he wasn't the gardener anymore. She called Jesus Rabboni, which means master. Jesus told her to go tell the disciples that she had seen him. Jesus was going back up to heaven to be with his Father. But first, he was going to go meet his disciples in Galilee. And so Mary hurried to tell the disciples the good news. What a cool encounter that Mary had with Jesus that day at the tomb. And what an amazing end of the story, that Jesus wasn't really dead. So this week, I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about how the story didn't end with Jesus on the cross. But because Jesus was resurrected, because he died and came back to life, that means that we have hope that one day after we die, that we will be in heaven with Jesus one day. And that also means that Jesus, the power that God gave Jesus to come back to life also lives in us. Not that we're going to die and come back to life, but that we have the power to overcome things. We have the power to overcome our sin. So I want you to think about that this week. And I want you to think about those women and those disciples, Peter and John, who came to see him at the tomb. And so I want to look at our memory verse for this week. It's Matthew 28:6. And it says, he is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Okay? This is what the angel says to Mary. He says, he is not here, he is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. That is Matthew 28:6. So let's say it one more time. Say it with me. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Matthew 28:6. All right. Love you guys. Be practicing that verse this week. All right. Hey, my people, it is week 2 math, if you can see up there, and just to kind of give you a little bit of help with the lessons every day. So we're on week 2 math. This is Monday, okay? And so your assignment was to do page 263 and 264. And the part that I really wanted to go over was fractions, because we didn't really get to go over that very much last week. So if you look, I have some pizza up here. Who likes pizza? Me. And we have a pizza. Now my pizza is divided into 2 equal parts, okay? So I have 2 equal parts. Now, when we talk about a fraction, that means just a part of a whole, okay? So if I was talking about a whole pizza, that would be one whole pizza. But let's say I'm only talking about this part of the pizza, okay? I'm only talking about this part of the pizza. How many parts do I have here? I have 1, okay? How many equal parts was my pizza divided into? Well, my pizza was cut into 2 equal parts. So when you talk about a fraction, the number on bottom tells me how many equal parts, and then the number on top tells me what part I'm talking about, okay? How many of those parts. So for this one, I'm only talking about 1 of 2 equal parts, or we say 1/2, okay? 1/2. Now, if I'm looking at the pizza a different way, I'm going to leave a little space in between so you can see how many equal parts is my pizza divided into. Well, it's divided into 1, 2, 3 equal parts. So that's our bottom number of our fraction. That's called our denominator, okay? Our denominator. Now, that is 3 equal parts my pizza's divided into. But if I'm only talking about this piece, then that means this piece is 1 of 3 equal parts, or 1/3. If I'm talking about this piece and this piece, then now I don't have 1/3. How many thirds do I have? I have 2/3. I have 2 of 3 equal parts, or 2/3. If I'm talking about all 3 pieces, then I have 3/3, okay? 3/3. Now, what is more, 2/3 or 3/3? Well, let's look at the picture to help me. Is this more or is this more? Well, definitely 3/3 is bigger. So our alligator is going to eat our bigger number. 2/3 is less than 3/3. The same thing works when I have 4 equal parts. The same thing works when I have 4 equal parts. How many equal parts do I have? I have 4. Okay, if I'm only talking about this piece, I just have 1 out of 4 equal parts, or I can read it 1/4. This is 1/4 of the pizza. This is 2/4 of the pizza. How many is this? 3/4 of the pizza and 4/4 of the pizza. Okay, so I just wanted to go over that with you. It kind of helps if you get a visual if you're having trouble with that part. The other part that I want to talk about is your division. When you have on your page, you have some problems where it asks you to write the quotient. When you divide two numbers, your answer is called the quotient. Everybody say quotient. Okay, quotient. So the problem on your paper is 20 divided by 5. Sorry, that needs to be a dot. 20 divided by 5. So that means if I have 20 and I put them in 5 equal groups, how many are in each group? Okay? So if I have 5 equal groups and I have 20 total, let's pretend I'm talking about jelly beans, and I will have 20 jelly beans and I want to divide them among 5 people. How many would each person get? So when we're talking about dividing, that's what we're talking about. So I know that if I want to divide them equally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So how many jelly beans did each person get? Each person got 4. Now, just like when we add, it's like subtraction is addition in reverse. Division is multiplication in reverse. So the way I can look is I can say 4, I can go backwards, 4 times 5 equals 20. And that's how I know I have the right answer. Okay, so let's look at another one. The next one on your page says 40 divided by 5. 40 divided by 5, okay? This is how many I have total. This is how many groups. And I want to know how many in each group. Okay, so let's think about our jelly beans again. How many groups do I have? Well, I have 5. I have 5 friends, and I have 40 jelly beans. So how many is each friend going to get? All right, so each friend would get, if I were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I were to keep going all the way to 40, each friend would get 8 jelly beans, because I know that 8 times 5 equals 40, okay? Or another way to look at it is you can count by 5s. What times 5 gives me 40? Well, I can count by 5s. That's pretty easy. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. How many? 8. So 40 divided by 5 equals 8. Okay? Let's do another one that way, counting by 5s. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'm just trying to give you some tools so that you can pick the way that makes the most sense to you. The last one is 60 divided by 5. Okay? So let's count by 5s until we get to 60. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 60 divided by 5 equals 12. All right, I think that's the most that you're going to have trouble on your lesson today. So I just wanted to go over that with you. If you have any questions, rewatch the video or talk to your parent and they can contact me, and then we can work through it together over the phone. Okay, love you guys. Hey guys, it is week two, and we are actually going to do a little bit of phonics today, or language. So what we have on the schedule is actually you're going to, it's not typed on there, but you're going to take your phonics test, okay? Your phonics test. Your parent can help you on the part that they have to call out to you. If you can't do it now, that's fine. Just try to get to it sometime this week. Also, I want to see how you do on it. So just try your best. And then also it gave you some pages to do. It gave you page 267 and 268 to do. Those are just for fun. So if you want to do them, you can. If you want to do the coloring page on the back, that would be great. It'd be just kind of fun. So I'm just going to leave this open to you. You don't have to do it. This is Miss Penny saying you don't have to do it. But I would like for you to try and get your phonics test done for me, okay? And then if you want to do the extra sheet, then you can. If not, you can skip it because it's just a review. Those sheets that we do on the same day as our test is just a review, okay? And I will see you tomorrow for phonics. Hey guys, this week, week 2 for reading, you are going to be reading 2 stories. You're going to be reading an informational story called A Volcano Erupts, and it's a nonfiction informational text that tells you true facts about a volcano. And it'll kind of carry over from your fiction story last week. A Volcano Erupts, and your second story is Betsy Ross. So you're going to spend 2 days on A Volcano Erupts, Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're going to read Betsy Ross. I'm not going to do a video for that. I am going to link a video in the email that I send to your parents, okay? And in that video is going to be the link that you're going to go to, and you're going to watch another video about the story, and it's another teacher that's teaching you about our story. So for Monday, you're going to watch Lesson 99. Tuesday, you're going to watch Lesson 100. Wednesday, Lesson 101. Thursday, Lesson 100. Wednesday, Lesson 102. And Thursday, Lesson 103. And then Friday, you're going to do your comprehension page in your reading workbook for an open book test on Betsy Ross. I will put all of that in the email, but I just wanted you to know that you're going to be going to another video for reading. Okay? Talk to you later.